Hello, and welcome to another episode of Casual Learning. I'm your host, John Bannan. What's the deal with winning in high school track? Um, as a parent and a track enthusiast, have watched my daughter run high school track for 4 years. And I've seen a lot of runners, good runners and bad runners, and I can tell the difference between them. And so what is it that makes a runner a winner? Uh, and there are different qualities, uh, but besides talent, I mean, just great talent, and also dedication and a great training program, so that they're doing everything they need to do to be conditioned and to peak on the big race day in order to win. And hopefully they have good coaching. Um, but you take all those things aside, and some runners win and some runners don't. And even though we're talking about comparable runners, what's the magic ingredient to certain people who can win races? Uh, the most important thing to remember about winning races is your mental attitude. You have to have as your goal winning. I know, in today's world with participatory medals and trying to downplay the idea of winning or competing and being proven a better competitor than somebody else, that this message may not be exactly politically correct, but winners want to win. That's their goal. When they go into races, they don't think about, well, I'm just going to try my hardest, or I'll do my best, or I'll look just good enough so that people won't notice that I really wasn't trying that hard, or just that they don't know any better. I'll just run and it'll be okay. And I got something else I want to do later on today. I'm not worried about this race. Winners, they want to win. That's their goal. And even if the race is, frankly, not winnable, they still want to win it. That's always their goal. The winner in high school track and cross country is oftentimes the person who is intending on winning that race. That is their goal. They don't think about second place finishing or medaling. They're thinking about winning the whole thing. So if you want to be a great high school track or cross country runner, the first thing you got to do is you got to think about winning. That should be your goal in every race, winning. Regardless of how realistic that might be in any particular race, it's still got to be your mindset. I want to win. Nobody remembers who took second place. They don't. They remember the winners. So, that's the reward you get for winning, is that people will remember your name. They will know who you are. They will come to know who you are because you won. Second place? No one remembers second place. People who got medals. Medals are nice and they're good motivators, but people don't remember who medaled. They only remember who won. So these great champions who not only have talent and not only have work ethic and not only have great coaching, and not only do everything that you need to be able to put yourself in a position to win a race. Mentally, winning is what they want. That's their goal. They only have one goal. Very simple. To win. And if you want to be a winner, you got to have that mental aspect, that mental desire to be the winner. So that's really what the deal is with winners. You got to think in terms of, I'm going to win this. How do I win this? And if you have somebody telling you something else, like, oh, just do your best, or go for a, third place medal or whatever, ignore them. They're not helping you. Your mindset should be, I want to win. I want to win the race always. Even if it's not realistic necessarily, it should still always be your goal. I want to win. Some other things that winners often have. Lots of times they have other competitors on their team who are as good as they are, or better than they are, or maybe slightly not as good as they are. But there's somebody on their team pushing them. So they push that person, and that person pushes them. So in a good team will have that combination of at least two close competitors, so that they can push each other in practice. And that can make a world of difference in how good those runners end up being, or how good those throwers end up being. They push each other. And that internal competition, that internal battle to see who's the better runner or thrower, elevates the game for both of them. And they get better and better because of it. And that's another technique that can be used to make winners, is having that dynamic on the team between closely competitive runners or throwers. That's a very, very useful technique for getting better and becoming a champion runner. If you don't have a close competitor on your team, you're missing out on a big advantage that you could otherwise have if you had that sort of competition within your team. Because you'll run against people who are as fast as you in races, maybe once or twice a week, or maybe once every 2 weeks, something like that. But there's nothing like having somebody who's close to you in competition at practice every day, pushing you constantly, and you battling each other. That can really elevate your games, so that when you go into the big races, you're both so much better than you otherwise would be alone. So whenever you can see that sort of internal competition, if you have the opportunity for that, you want to take a hold of that. That's going to help you. I know that everybody would prefer to be, well, I'm the best runner on the team, and there's nobody else who can touch me. Yeah, that's comfortable and fun, and but the truth is, if you actually want to be better and want to be a winner, you're better off having a close competitor on the team to battle you and push you, because that's what you need. You also need somebody to push you and make you better over time, so that you can become an even greater runner. So there's lots of techniques for being a great runner, conditioning and speed work, but having that internal battle on your team between you and a close competitor or a couple other close competitors, that's also a great tip and situation you'll find yourself in to make you a better runner. There's nothing like having that competitor on your team pushing you every day of practice to make you better. It by itself won't make you a great runner. You got to have everything else: good coaching, good training. But if you have that and the competitor, that's a wonderful situation to be in. You're going to do really, really well if you have that and take it seriously. And don't ever think to yourself, oh, this person on the team is better than me. Don't. The second you do that, you become complacent and you allow them to beat you at practice, and you're not going to get the benefit of that competition because you're not in competition. Essentially, you pulled yourself out of the competition. And you just simply said, that person's better than me. I'm not going to compete with them. That's not going to help you at all. So don't take that attitude towards a competitor on your team. The attitude you should take is, I'm better than that person, and I will beat them in practice every day. Now, hopefully they do the same thing. They're thinking the same thing about you, so you can push each other. All right, but don't say to yourself, "Oh, they're better than me, and I can't compete with them." No, you want to compete with them, and you want to be better than them, and you want to beat them in practice every day, and you want to beat them at races. That's the only way you can have that internal conflict and battling between competitors on the team to make you both better. So don't give in to somebody on your team. Don't ever do that. Always try to beat them. That's the best attitude, and that's the attitude winners take. They want to win everywhere, whether it's a race or whether it's in practice against a person on their own team. They always want to win. Okay. What other things do winners do? Well, winners also understand that maybe their best race is a distance race, like the 1600 and the 3200, and they practice a lot in those races. But they also understand that to become better, they also need speed work. They need speed development. So they also run other sorts of races, like 400s or 800s or relays, where they can develop some speed, because speed is useful even in a distance race. There are times in distance races where you have to put in a kick to win a race, or you want to get off to a fast start, or you need to pass somebody in the race. And speed development helps in those aspects of those distance races. So having a variety of races under your belt really makes you a better complete runner, and it helps you in your distance races. Same thing with the runners whose specialty is really speed or sprinting. They can also benefit from some endurance and distance racing, maybe an 800, running 800. Let's say they're a 400 runner. They can benefit from also running the 800 because it develops some endurance in them that can become useful in a 400. Or if they're a 200 runner, they run a 400 as well. That endurance aspect of a 400 being a longer race can help them in their 200. So winning runners, they don't just stick to one race, period. They go across the spectrum, because different aspects of different races can be helpful. In your best race, it can help you out. It can make you a better runner. So, if you're a 1600, 3200 runner, you may want to also run the 800, maybe a 400, 4x4, maybe a 4x8 kind of relay. It'll make you better. It'll develop your speed. It'll make you a better runner. So relays, well, the thing with relays is they don't really help you in terms of college recruitment, because you generally don't get individual fat times when you're in a relay. You're lucky if it's even mentioned online that you were in the relay, let alone what your split time was. But they're good speed development races. So, you're a distance runner and you run a 4x8 or a 4x4, that's a good thing. It's going to help you. So, you get involved in that a little bit. You get some, 400 training can be very helpful to a distance runner. So in relays, the general idea in relays is that if you're in a relay, you want to try to pick up position. So if you get the baton and you're in third, let's say your team's in third, try to pick up a spot, get in second, or maybe first. So in a relay, you're always trying to pick up a spot. If you're in first, you want to maintain your position, so you don't want to lose position. Or maybe you want to increase the distance between you and whoever's in second. So generally speaking, in a relay, you want to try to improve your position, your team's position. At a bare minimum, you don't want to lose position. So let's say you get the baton and you're in third. At bare minimum, when you hand that baton off, you want to be at least in third. You don't want to lose position. Last thing you want to do in a relay is lose position, because then whoever you give the baton to now has the harder problem of trying to pick up the position that you lost and then try to gain more. And that's really hard. So the general rule for relay is try to gain position, but at a bare minimum, don't lose position. Okay. And in a relay, generally speaking, the fastest runners are the leadoff runners and the anchor runners. And they can switch. Those two can switch depending on the circumstances of the race, but generally speaking, that's usually what the case is. The second and third runners are your two slowest runners on the relay. And they can switch positions too, depending on the setup of the race. But that's the generally accepted setup for a relay. Now, when you go into a race, let's say you have a meet and there's multiple races that you can enter into. What you should do is you should enter into all the races that you might run. Let's say you're a distance runner, but you also run a 4x4 and a 4x8 because you also want some of that speed development. So, there might be a meet where theoretically you could enter into 4 or 5 races. Maybe you could enter into the 800, the 16, the 32, a 4x4, and a 4x8. So what you should do is, your coach should do this, is enter you into all those races. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to run all those races, but you should enter into all those races. And the reason for this is you're never 100% sure what you're going to run until race day, because circumstances can change. And you want to make sure that your competitors, other teams, aren't sure what you're going to run. Because if you just enter the race that you know you're going to run and no others, well, then your competitors know what you're going to run. And worse yet, you can't change your mind on race day because that's all you entered into. So you've left yourself no flexibility whatsoever in deciding what you should run on race day. That's a mistake. So you should over-enter into races. Even if you're only allowed to run 4 races, but you can still enter yourself into 5. Do that. And then on race day, that's when you figure out what are you going to run. And there's a hope, what do winners do? Winners think about winning the race. They want to win a race. So, to a winner, they understand that nobody remembers second place. Nobody remembers second place. So, on the day of the race, what's better? What's better? Let's say, you could run the 800, the 1600, the 3200, and let's say a 4x8, right? Or maybe let's say you also could run a 4x4. Let's say there's a big meet and you've entered into all of these races. Doesn't mean you're going to run them all, but you entered into all of them. Let's say it's a 2-day meet. So you say to yourself, well, how am I going to do in these different races? And the answer to that question is going to depend on who's in the race. Who are you going up against? So lots of times you don't get that information until right before the meet. So then you look at the entry list and you look at who you're racing against and what other races are they in and which races are they likely to race. Now, if a competitor is likely to win a race, then you can bank on them running that race because generally speaking, these runners want to win the race. Now, there could be differences depending on the coach for that particular runner and whether the coach is after points for the team. But generally speaking, if a runner is likely to win a race, then they're likely to run that race. So that's some information that you can use. Let's say, you look at the entries and you see that one of your competitors is running the 800, and that competitor is likely to win the 800. And because of that, if you run it, you're likely to come in second, right? Second place. But you also know that this 3200 is after this 800. And if you run that 800 and you get tired, and then you're in the 3200 and you're running the 3200 tired, well, looking at the list of competitors, you realize that if you're running this tired, there's another runner in that 3200 that if they run that 3200 fresh, that is their first race of the day, they're likely to win. So if you run these two races, you're likely to get 2 second place medals. Okay? And so you may end up with 2 second place medals, but you may say, okay, well, you know what I'm going to do instead? I'm not going to run this 800 at all. I'm going to scratch out of it. And I'm going to run this 3200 fresh. And because I'm fresh, I haven't run a race yet that day, I'm likely to win this 3200 now because I didn't run that 800. So you get a first place in the 3200, but you don't get anything in the 800 because you didn't run it. So then you look at this and you say, well, which situation is better? Is it better to have 2 second place medals, or is it better to have no medal and a first place medal? Well, the winner is going to say the first place medal. That's what you want. You want to win. So this is better than this. Sure, you get one less medal, but it's first place. People remember who win. They remember people who win. They don't remember who's in second. So this is a much better situation. So part of your strategy on race day is to enter into all the races you could potentially run. Make sure you're entered into it. And then on race day, you look and you see who's scratched out of these races. Who the top competitors are, and have they scratched out of them? Or are they going to run them or not? And depending on that information, that may affect which race you want to run. Because you're looking to win. You're not looking to get as many medals as you can. You're looking to win. So one win is better than 5 medals. Well, you can't get 5. 4. Let's take 4 medals. Let's say you took 6th here and 4th here, right? 4 medals. This is still better than this. It's better to have 1 first place medal than 4 non-first place medals. Because everybody remembers first who first is. They don't remember these people. They don't remember the names of these people. This is better. So there's strategy on race day. You have to try to figure out what race you should run based on who's running it, who's scratched out of it, and a lot of your top competitors, you kind of have to figure out what they're likely to do and which races they're likely to run. because sometimes you can figure out if they're going to be running a race tired or not. And if you can figure out, hey, this competitor, they're running the 800, and then they're running the 32. Hey, that's an advantage for me because they're going to be running that 32 tired. Whereas if they ran it fresh, they could probably beat me. But because they're tired, maybe I should run this fresh, and then I can beat them. So there's strategy involved in figuring out what races you should run on any given day based on what your competitors are running and what they're likely to run and what they're scratched out of. Because you never know who's going to go up to the line at the time of race. You don't know what's going on with all these other teams and all these other runners. You have no idea. So you have to wait till race day to make the final decision what you're going to run. Based on, you look at the clipboards, you find out who's scratched out of races, what races these competitors are likely to run, whether they're going to be tired in a certain race that maybe you want to run instead now, which race you should focus on. And, here's what, you may be, maybe your best race is a 1600, but you're up against some really tough competition. But the competition is such that you could win this 4x8 because the best runners are staying out of that relay because they're going into individual races. Well, maybe since you can win it, that's the race you want to focus on because you can win it. So you got to be fluid at the time of the race, the race day, to be able to adjust depending on what your competitors are doing to find out what your best chances of winning are. And you go with those races where you have the best chance of winning. Because, first place is always better than all of these medals. First place, always better. So, now relays, of course, the relays are a little different than individual races. Individual races, everybody knows it's you that won it. Whereas a relay is a team of 4 people, and people are far less likely to know who is in a relay. But still, if you can win it, it might be worth it, especially if you're not able to win in individual races. It's always better to win individual races than it is relays, because you get sole credit for an individual win, and people remember who you are. Whereas in a relay, there's 4 people in it, and you're lucky if anybody remembers you were in a winning relay. But nonetheless, if you can't win these, then go for this. Go for the relay win, right? So on race day, you may want to wait till the last second to scratch out of a race, or wait a little while so that the other coaches had a chance to scratch their runners out, so that you have a really good idea of who's likely to be in any given race and what other races main competitors are racing that day, so that you can devise the best strategy for you to win. That helps a lot if you can do that. You can. That's increasing your chances of winning at a meet, and hopefully your coach does that, uses that sort of strategy, that wait and see, and over include in a number of races that he enters you in, and then waits the last minute to figure out what your best chance of winning is, and sticking you in that race and scratching you out of the other ones. And it can be, there's different things that can affect it too. Weather conditions, what are the weather conditions like the day of the meet? It may be, raining, right? Well, that's going to affect things. But but the weather conditions not only affect how well you run and what race you would be better in, but it can also affect competitors and what they want to run, and that can affect what race you should be in. So you really do have to wait to the day of the meet and a little bit before the race to really figure out what race you should be in and who your competitors are running in, and that can affect what you should run. All right, there's some tips that winners use. I hope you you can use these in your own racing, and that they help you. But most importantly, remember, if you want to be a winner in running or in track and field, winning has to be your main goal in every race, in every competition or throw meet. Winning. You want to win it. Even if, for all practical purposes, you're not going to, don't tell yourself that. Tell yourself, I want to win this. All right. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Please press the like button or the like button and the subscribe button. I appreciate it. All right. Take care, winners.